We may have defects. We may have our own sicknesses, weaknesses. But remember today that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are all original piece, not fake. There's no copy. Originally made by God the Creator. Okay. With that, I want to just tell you one illustration, a story. This you may have heard in different forms and ways with different meaning. But to suit my sermon today, I just want to use it in the way that I am going to share with you. Not from the Bible. When God created man and breathed into his nostril the breath of life, he told man, I will give you 20 years to enjoy life, to enjoy the garden. 20 years. Man was grumbling. 20 years to enjoy life is not easy. Not easy. He wants more. He wants more. Not enough. I want more. Not contented with what God had given. Now, man's wants are always unlimited. That is what I learned in the economics while I was in Form 6. Man's wants are always unlimited. That was a theory by Padre Malthus, I think. So, friends, not satisfied with what God has given. He wanted more to enjoy life. 20 years was not enough for him. So it's not easy. He wants more. Not sufficient, okay. Then God created a cow. And God said, you have to work very hard. And for you to work hard, I give you 40 years. The cow said, no. 40 years to slog and work is very difficult. I don't want. I only want 20 years and I give you back 20 years. So how long does the cow have now? 20. 40 was given, 20 returned to God. So the cow only works for 20 years. Hard labor. As to slog, sweat and so on. So it returned 20 years back to God. Then next he created a monkey. He said, your job is to cheer up everybody, be like a comedian and make everybody laugh and all, do all the monkey tricks that you can and all. So for this, I give you 30 years. 30 years. The monkey said, 30 years is too long to make everybody laugh and make my life miserable with doing all the monkey tricks. So he returned to God 20 years. So how much life does the monkey has? 10. Monkey has got 10 and it returned back 20 years to God. Well, fine. Then finally God created a dog. And then dog said, I want you to keep barking, 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 barking. Whoever you see, you bark, bark, bark. That is your job. That is why you see dogs barking today. For that, God gave the dog 25 years. And the dog said, 25 years to keep barking is too long. So the dog returned to God 10 years. 15 years is enough. Out of 25, it returned to God 10 years and said 15 years is enough for me. So God called the man and said, well, you have got good luck. The cow has returned 20, the monkey has returned 20, and the dog has returned 20. So you have 50 years extra for you to add to the 20 years I've already given you. So how much lifespan does the man have now? 70 years. 70 years. So that is why in the first 20 years of our lives, we keep enjoying. Study, enjoy and all that. Not very much responsibility given, but our work is to study, and to become somebody. Study, enjoy life for the first 20 years of our life. What happens to us from 20 years to 60 years? The next 20 years, 20 to 40 years. The next 20 years we have to slog like a cow. Work, work, work. That is what we need to do. Go out at 8 a.m., come back at 5, 6, and then come back home very tired already, spend some time with the wife and children, and then go to bed. Next day morning, get up early, and then go back to work. This is our routine. So gone. Then, when we are 60 years old, we retire. That is the monkey's return. So what do we do? Like the monkey, we have to play with our grandchildren, make them laugh, do all the funny jokes that we can. Maybe crawl like a dog, make them sit on our top and all that, make them laugh. That is what we will do. Normal, we all do that. Because when that age, we will have all the grandchildren. Then when a time comes when we have great-grandchildren, 70 and all that, what do? We become very fussy again. They touch your things, you will bark, bark, bark. Your things must be there. They must not disturb. You get very irritated very fast. You lose your patience. Now this is just a story. Not everybody the same. We have got elderly people who are very graceful when they advance in age. This is just a story. So at that age, they do what the dog does. Keep barking, barking. Some of them outside the house, like where the dog is, barking, barking, barking at the neighbors. They get very irritated very fast. So this is a creation story that we have in the world and used as illustration. Here in this Psalm 139, we have the psalmist highlight to us the greatness of God. How great is our God. In the first 6 verses, he touches on the knowledge of God. Then from verse 7 to verse 12, he speaks about the presence of God. Verse 13 to 18, he continues on to highlight the power of God. And then from 19 to 24, the sovereignty of God. The knowledge of God, the presence of God, the power of God, and the sovereignty of God. If you imagine, if you take time to ponder and think, you yourself will wonder at the greatness of God. How great is our God. Like how the hymn goes. How great is our God. The hymn goes like this. O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder, at the close of my sermon we will sing this. Consider all the works thy hands have made. I see the stars. I hear the rolling thunder. Thy path throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then the last stanza. When Christ shall come with shouts of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow with humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Again at the end, he comes back to acknowledge God. My God, how great thou art. So, what happens as life goes on? We tend to forget how awesome is our God. How great is our God. Some people think that God is in their pocket. They've got God in their hands. Or rather, they would put God in a box and limit him. They fail to understand how awesome is our God. How great is our God. How wonderful is our God. Beyond our imagination. So here the psalmist acknowledges the knowledge of God, the presence of God, the power of God, and the sovereignty of God. We must not let time and the mundane things of life rob us from realizing the greatness, wonder of God. We must always remind ourselves how great is our God. Few things impress our generation today. You know, when the Wright brothers came up with the aeroplanes, First, everybody was very much impressed and all that, and you cannot think of riding in a plane at that time. So then came the ships. Maybe that was affordable to some. All wonder, wonder. But then after some time, all this wonder will disappear. Then comes the modified way of the aeroplane where we also can fly. Now with Air Asia, all of us can fly. All of us can fly. It's made easy for us to fly these days. We are connected everywhere. It's affordable to fly. And if you book early, it's all cheap. So that, impression that you earlier had is no more there. It becomes common already. Likewise, handphone. The first time the handphone came, it was very bulky, isn't it? Do you remember? You have to carry some big box like that with you. Now it's so tiny, maybe half the size of your palm as well. And then you were very impressed when it first came. And after that, it becomes very normal and all that. Our impressions disappear. The scientists were using the email and all that earlier. Connection from here to the moon and all that. Communication. And we were amazed how information is passed. Today, you and I just click the button. At the next end, they already get the info already. So, technology grows and our impression of the former things sort of diminishes. Like that, many Christians, as they go on facing many challenges in life, they forget the greatness of God. How great is our God. God becomes a very normal, routine kind of thing in their life. So here comes the psalmist to us this morning, reminding us how great is our God, reminding us how impressed we should be with the glory and the grandeur of our God. So we need to remind ourselves the qualities of God that the psalmist depicts to us in this psalm, where he says, He knows our strengths and our weaknesses. He knows as no one else knows us. Verse 1. O Lord, you have searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. God knows our daily schedule of life. He knows our thoughts before we think them. Our good and bad points, our strength and our weaknesses, all our words before we speak, He already knows what we are going to say. So the psalmist experienced reverential awe of God's knowledge, that nothing is hidden for God. So in verse 4 and 5 he says, Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, O Lord. You hem me in, behind and before, and you have laid your hands upon me. God's infinite knowledge was beyond his human comprehension. So he wondered at God's knowledge, all-knowing God. So we examine ourselves. Do we wonder at God, at God's creation? Just imagine if our nose is not like this and it is the other way around. And you need to go out with an umbrella, definitely. Otherwise, when it rains, you cannot go out, because the two holes will be facing up. Awesome God. He knows where to put things and how to put. And the mouth, if it's not in the front, it's in the back, difficult for us to feed as well. So imagine God's knowledge. You wonder why He has fixed all this like that. And just enough 5 fingers for us. Imagine if 10 fingers are here, another 10 fingers. So you wonder at God's knowledge. Do we wonder how we can walk, how we can just sit, how it's all communicated to our brains, how the nerves are all connected, the whole human body? You wonder at God's knowledge. and you praise him. Praise him. Secondly, he wanted God's presence, verse 7 to verse 12. The psalmist desired to escape from the presence of God, who knew all about him. The psalmist thought of several means of escape, these verses tell us: to heaven, to the depths of the earth, across the world, and even darkness. Verse 7 to 12. No way. Everywhere we go, he is there. So he was impressed with God's presence. First, God was everywhere he went. Thou art there, he says. Second, God's presence offered leadership to him. Thy right hand shall hold me. God holding our right hand and leading. Third, God's presence would enlighten him. Remember the Old Testament passage that was read to us, Genesis 28, where Jacob flees from Esau after cheating his father and getting the blessing that was due to his brother. He is now afraid of the brother and he runs away to his uncle Laban. But somewhere in the middle of the way, he had to take some rest. And that night, he dreamed ladder going up to heaven, angels ascending and descending and all that he dreamt. And then when he woke up, what did he say? God is present here. God is here. This is the house of God. So he named it as Bethel. The stone that he used to sleep, took it, laid it, made it an altar there, and named that place Bethel, the house of God. God is present there. Even in the desert, in the wilderness, God is there. He recognized God's presence there with him. Nowhere. So the psalmist here in these few verses wonders at God's presence, which is everywhere, and then praises him. And we summarize with that phrase, how great thou art. Thirdly, verses 13 to verse 18, we see God's power. Not only God's knowledge, God's presence, the psalmist also acknowledges and wonders at God's power. He praised God for the formation of life. Verse 13, 15, and 16. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Then verse 15. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. The psalmist was amazed that God shaped him in his mother's womb. The power of God was demonstrated from time to time when we were a fetus, until the time God knit together bodily frame. Miracle. It's a great miracle when you wonder how a child is consumed and then conceived and then later delivered. It's a miracle. How life comes again. Creation is done. And now we join God in creation today. So the psalmist praises God for the design of the human body. I told you earlier, the nose and then the mouth. All our parts where they are. It's all God's wisdom. So he looked at the human body and he marveled over God's power as well. So to study the human body with its masterful design is to marvel over God's knowledge, over God's presence, and over God's power. The psalmist could not comprehend God's great power in creation. God's power is beyond human calculation and understanding. Then he goes on in conclusion there, God's sovereignty, verses 19 to verse 24. He realizes that God was more powerful than his enemies. Almighty God, sovereign God. One word, your enemies will flee. He knows how God destroyed Pharaoh and his army. And here, the enemies are nothing. His enemies are nothing before God, because God is all powerful. God is sovereign. The psalmist asked God to test the sincerity of his life as well in conclusion. And God's sovereignty is demonstrated by the fact that he searches us, he knows us, and he tests our ways and our thoughts. Verse 23 and 24, let me read it to you. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me. I add the word forgive. Forgive me. And then in conclusion there, and lead me in the way everlasting. God's sovereignty, yes, is seen in the way how he searches us, knows us, tests us, tests our ways and our thoughts. Nothing is hidden to him. Yes, my friends, God's knowledge, God's presence, God's power, and God's sovereignty must amaze us, must astonish us, and enable us to sing, "O Lord my God, how great thou art, how great thou art." Has God become common to some of us? Or is he great? We need to know and remind ourselves of God's greatness again and again. So nice. Verse 14 encourages us. With all our defects, weaknesses, we go and stand before a mirror. And like the psalmist, we can comfort ourselves and say that we are not a mistake that God made. We are not a mistake in this world. We are not failures in this world. We are very special of God's creation. We were born in God's thoughts. So David here comes to stand before a mirror and he says, in all humility and honesty, verse 14, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. So just look at the mirror. See yourself in the mirror. Imagine God, your creator. How fearfully, how wonderfully he had created you. And give thanks to him. You are a designer, original masterpiece. Not a counterfeit, original masterpiece. Not a fake, not a duplicate, not clone. Original masterpiece. As such, you are dear and grand and precious to God, your Creator. God bless you. As our prayer, let us sing this hymn, O Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder. Let us stand. Please stand with me. The words are there on the screen. As Ronald leads us, the choir leads us, let us sing this hymn together. And after that, I'll give the summary in Bahasa Malaysia.
O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling clouds. wonder, thy path throughout the universe is laid. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God his Son not sparing sent him to die, I scarce can take it in. That on the cross my burden he bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow in humble adoration, and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art.
Let us give God a clap offering. Great is our God, and He is greatly to be praised. Please be seated.